Okay, good morning. I'm Kristen Hollis-Shear here with UT Southwestern, and we're going to talk today with Dr. Cullum, who is a professor of neurology, psychiatry, and neurosurgery here at UT Southwestern, and we're going to talk about the ConTex Concussion Registry. So before we start, I wanted to remind everybody to make sure you ask your questions in the comments. We're going to take them as they come through. We'll answer as many as we can, and we wanted to give a special shout out to both Children's Health, Texas Scottish Rite Hospital for Children, as well as THR, or Texas Health. They're all partners in this important discovery, or just important endeavor. So to get started, let's see, Dr. Cullum, so thank you for joining us today. We have a lot of questions. We're going to try to get through some of them. I know you've worked on concussions for a while, for some time.
We've been studying different aspects of traumatic brain injury for probably 30 years or more.
So tell us a little bit about what is this registry?
So we're really excited about the ConTex Registry. This is a statewide initiative that will be capturing concussions in all UIL participating schools across the state.
Okay.
The exciting thing is that very few states are doing this, although many want to, and we have the largest number of athletes of just about any state, so it's going to be big in Texas.
Okay, awesome. So one of our questions, this is from Denise Klein. So Denise is wondering, what are the parameters for reporting concussions, and are schools and outside youth sports organizations required to report all incidents? And what's the registry's mission? So that's kind of actually a couple questions.
That is a couple questions, but those are good questions.
Yeah, maybe we'll start with what is the registry's mission?
Sure. So our mission is to try to obtain really a baseline snapshot of how many concussions are occurring across the state in school-age athletes and kids, basically. Okay. Until we understand that what the base rate is, or the current number is, we're never going to know if the rates are increasing or decreasing. So
okay.
That's a starting point for that.
Okay. So then then what are the parameters for reporting?
So within our study, we're going to have athletic trainers and school nurses or other designated personnel at each UIL school, designated by the superintendents. They'll be designated as reporters for our study. So when a concussion occurs, they'll be entering some basic information about the concussion into our data entry portal once they've obtained consent from the parents that the data can go in also.
Okay. So let's see, we've got a question from Toby Lee. So Toby is wondering, he says, as more research comes out about the lingering effects of concussions and cumulative subconcussive head impacts, what do you think the future of football is for players at the high school level or below?
Well, the NFL on down has moved toward increasing safety. Obviously, concussions are on the agenda now. You've got the NFL has spotters in the booths. You hear more about the reporters talking about concussions, the ones they had, as well as the players have sustained. So it's on everybody's minds now, and so attention is certainly greater to this, and it is very important. What we don't know is who's really at risk for those prolonged symptoms. We know that the vast majority of people with concussion are going to recover completely within a matter of days or weeks in the majority of cases. What we don't know is who's at risk for what problems that might linger. So if you have two kids with the same injury, person A might have a little headache the first day, next day they're totally fine and totally back to normal. The other person might have a headache that goes on for a couple days, and they might kind of feel foggy for a little while, and that might last up to a week. And we don't understand right now what the differences in those two people are. We need to learn more about predictors of recovery also.
Okay, I certainly definitely see it a lot more in the news lately. So how about this one? Do studies that show decreases in brain function after a single season of football for younger players who haven't had a concussion before, does that suggest that any football activity can be detrimental?
Well, that's a very complicated question. I'm actually not aware of studies showing really significant changes in cognitive function after a season of football. There have been a couple reports of changes in brain structure, but those studies, most of them did not have control groups, so we actually don't know what might be a maturational change anyway. So these studies are really tough to do. You've got to have a well-matched control group. You've got to have pre-risk factor assessment, and then afterwards as well. and they really have to be multi-domain assessments.
Right.
So there's a lot we don't know about this. I am hearing the term subconcussive, hits or whatnot, and that's just a hit to the head. Whether those things actually do a lot negative to us, we really don't know yet.
Okay, lots of questions there.
Lots of questions, and you've got people, former NFL greats that took many hits over their careers that are completely normal. So the jury's out on a lot of this type of research. But the moves that the NFL and others are making to make play safer is certainly the way to go.
Okay, awesome. So what about, and this may be something for the UIL or maybe in one of the study parameters, but are middle and high school students obligated to report athlete concussions? And if they don't report it, does anything happen, and can their doctor sign them up?
So those also are good questions. Schools are supposed to be reporting concussive events. The UIL has asked them to be doing that for a long time now. And the athletic trainers are seeing these kids, and they are making reports, or at least documenting the injuries. In Texas, as with all 50 states now, we have return to play guidelines and rules and laws. So in Texas, you have to be removed from play and participation in that sport or activity for a week, and then you must have a medical clearance prior to return to play. So you do have to have a physician sign off and say, Johnny or Julie's ready to go back to play now. That's really a separate thing from our registry. So those are two different things. So it won't be people's physicians signing them up for our registry. Right now it's going to be school-based and relying heavily upon the trainers, nurses, and school personnel for to entering data into our registry. Okay,
so let's see. So Amber Howard is asking, what device can be used to collect the data for the test? Is that an issue?
That's a terrific question. We actually we have a company we work with called Medical Innovation Labs in Austin that has developed a data portal for us that is electronic, obviously. We're working on an app that can be used on a cell phone or a tablet or a PC for the trainers and nurses to be able to enter the data. So we want to make that really portable. And it should be pretty easy.
That sounds great for them. So she has a second question. So what are the tests and what is the study seeking to find out in regards to brain function?
Well, as I mentioned, this is really just a basic registry to start with. So what we will learn is factors related to how many injuries are occurring, who are they occurring to. One important thing is we're going to be capturing concussions in females. A lot of the states that have concussion reporting requirements really only capture football, and football gets a lot of attention, but we need to be finding out factors that are going to help our young female athletes return and recover quickly too. So it's really important that we capture those cases as well. So we're actually not going to be doing detailed assessments as part of the registry. We have a local study that involves some of our research partners that you mentioned earlier that are clinic-based, where we have research coordinators that are actually, they are doing assessments of symptoms and cognitive function, and we're doing a deeper dive on those. Can't quite do that at the state level yet, but that's a direction we'd like to have.
That would be a lot of students.
It would.
So just a break. Don't forget, as you're watching this, be sure that you love, use your emoticons for the conversation, and feel free to share it. And we are continuing to take questions. I've seen a few more come in. We've got one from Melissa. She says, many people associate concussions with football. Will the registry include other athletic activities like cheerleading?
Absolutely. I think we'll be capturing at least 14 different sports and activities.
Isn't band one of those as well?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. We in our local ConTex study that involved the clinic-based piece, we do have some band-related injuries. But if you look at the CDC statistics, falls off bicycles are the number one cause of concussions in people under age 20. So, but we're wanting to capture a variety of sports and activities.
Yeah. So here's another one. This one's for parents. Who will be enrolling their child in the registry? I know you talked about that a little bit, but what information can they expect to be collected on their child, and how is that information going to be shared?
Very good question. So we're big on confidentiality. So After a concussion, the athletic trainer will do their usual thing, or the school nurse, in terms of the examination, assessment. Then they will be provided the opportunity to allow their child to be registered into the ConTex, or their data entered into the ConTex database. So it will require parent consent. So they'll be provided information about what sort of information we're collecting. It's really pretty basic. It's like, what time of the day did the injury occur? Have they had a prior history of concussions? Their age, gender, height, weight, some really basic things like that. So it's pretty restricted.
So are there any, and this is a follow-up question for this woman, are there any advantages or disadvantages to being enrolled in the registry?
I think the advantage is twofold, actually. One is contributing to science, contributing to our knowledge about this injury statewide, because we really need to get a good assessment of how many of these injuries are happening before we can judge whether they're increasing or decreasing based on rule changes and equipment improvements, etc. Secondly, however, it's sort of an additional opportunity for parents to know that that the trainer, nurse, school officials are paying really close attention to their kids' injuries also, because they know that their data have to be entered. So specific data are definitely being collected on those kids.
So do you see, and this is another question, do you see that, could this impact clinical care? It sounds like it possibly could be a plus for clinical care.
We do think in the longer term it will be, understanding that, for example, we don't know how many concussions are too many before somebody should stop playing, and that's probably an individual decision, basically, depending upon a lot of other factors in an individual's background.
Gotcha.
But we do hope that the results are useful to modifying clinical care. We'll be able to learn also which regions of the state have more quick versus longer return to play times, so that we actually may be able to help certain areas. Maybe we can identify areas that, hey, they use this latest helmet technology or mouth guard or whatever it is, and they have fewer concussions this year than last year. That will help. Oh, what are they doing? So we hope this will lead to us being able to assist the UIL in developing best practices too.
Gotcha. All right, so we've got a question from Justin. So Justin is asking, given the high volume of participants available for the study, paired with the luxury of modern technologies to assist with interpreting data as strengths coming in, what are some of the limitations your team foresees as the study advances, and how are you addressing those challenges?
Justin, that's a great question.
It's a lot of data.
That's a great question. In the future, we do hope to expand this. This is just a step one. We've got to get our foot in the door and begin collecting some sort of information. We are going to be limited in terms of the data that we're collecting from this project. So we're not actually doing symptom assessments. We're not doing any cognitive assessments or balance testing as part of the study per se. We're doing that at a local clinic-based ConTex study, but not at the state level. Again, we would like to move in that direction where some sort of symptom surveillance system is developed though.
All right, don't forget to watch Facebook Live. We have, I think, about 10 more minutes, possibly. Thanks again for Texas Health and for Children's and for Texas Scottish Rite for helping promote this chat. We have a little bit more time for questions. It looks like we have one from an Eric. So Eric Stocks is wondering, what is the research design for the study, and will the de-identified data set be made available to other researchers to analyze?
Good question. It will be, data will be de-identified, so it'll be kept in a HIPAA and FERPA compliant cloud-based storage system. With the only access will be the ConTex research team at this point in time. Now, in the future, if people want to collaborate with us, that may be an opportunity as well. But initially, it'll just be for the ConTex study team. To go back to one of the challenges, we are going to be dependent upon trainers and nurses and school personnel using our data entry system and entering data after concussion. And then we're going to be extra dependent upon parents to allow their kids to sign their kids up to participate. So if we have low participation rates, our study is not going to be able to find much at all. The first year, it will be a it will not be a mandatory program, but the UIL is looking at perhaps mandating it in the future at some point.
Gotcha. Okay, so if somebody is interested and they want their school district to participate and they don't know if they are, what are some steps they could take to maybe encourage their community to get involved?
I think that's a great question. I think they can ask their schools. They can ask the school trainer, the nurse, the superintendent, the principals, whether their school's involved.
Okay.
And again, we're going to start with UIL-based schools.
Right.
In the future, we hope to expand to private schools and perhaps other club sports as well.
Okay. Yeah, that was one of the questions, was if club sports were going to be included. So they're not initially.
Not initially, but we're hoping to move it in that direction.
Okay. All right. So what about and you mentioned this early on, but has anything like this ever happened before? I imagine there's not a registry that's going to be quite as large as ours.
There are several states that have begun concussion registries. Some are part of larger general injury registries. It's less than a half dozen states doing this right now, and so Texas is among the first, but we will be, I believe, the largest because we have over 800,000 student athletes. So how many will have concussions? We don't know. Hopefully, actually, we're not going to be collecting much data, right? We hope there aren't many concussions, but we know there are going to be, because concussions happen through the course of life.
Yeah, they do. There are certainly lots of them in the news. So is there anything, I mean, we're getting close to the end of our thing. Let me make sure, see if we have any other questions coming in. I think this has been really great. Thank you all for participating. Let's see. This gets back to the responsibility. Whose responsibility is it to report a concussion?
Well, I think that question came up earlier, and you know, it is the athletic trainer's responsibility to be reporting this. Although responsibility also falls on individuals as well. You know, kids ought to be letting their coaches, their trainers, their teammates know if they think they might be concussed. Also, if you go to the Cowboys locker room now, there are posters out that are reminding people about, you know, if you've got some symptoms after a big hit, tell the trainer.
Gotcha.
It can be a challenging diagnosis to make. So if somebody's not feeling quite right, they need to be letting someone on their team, the team leaders, coaches, teachers, you know, whoever it might be, letting them know. Sometimes concussions are easy to spot. If somebody's knocked out, that's pretty easy to spot.
That is easy to spot.
If somebody's stumbling, can't maintain the balance after they've hit their head, that's pretty easy to spot. But the symptoms may vary widely across individuals too. Some people may just feel a little bit out of it, if you will. They might have a little bit of difficulty with memory or paying attention, and that can be very subtle and almost invisible unless someone undergoes appropriate assessment.
Right. Okay. So this one actually came in before the chat started. It came in through a private message, and they were wondering, you know, okay, their kid, maybe they don't have a child, and they want to support this effort. Is there anything they can do? I mean, do you need control groups not for the registry, but for other work? I mean, how can people who maybe aren't involved in this particular effort help your research?
Well, you know, as this effort grows, we will be needing to seek additional funding. At some point, we probably will need some control groups for certain projects in the future. Right now, since it's just a registry, we won't be able to sample others. But as we develop protocols for interventions, we actually will need some control groups, because we need to, like the studies we talked about earlier, where you've got pre and post season, we need to understand what's happening to individuals who are not susceptible or are not undergoing those injuries too.
Okay. So stay tuned. That will come at some point. You'll have it. All right. Well, I think that is all the time we had today. But thank you, Dr. Cullum, for coming and talking to everybody. Thank you all for all of the questions. Again, this will be available once we close it out. You'll be able to share it with friends, loved ones, people that have dealt with concussions, people that haven't. Again, I want to thank Children's Health and Texas Scottish Rite, as well as Texas Health and all of our other partners out there. And we'll see you next time.